From Everybody Studios, we're jumping off the pages of SouthPark Magazine as we bring the stories to life that make up the art and soul of Charlotte. This is SouthPark Says with Krisha Chachra. Well, pull up, turn it up, and take a seat. We are talking to international best-selling author today, Joy Callaway. This is episode 3 of SouthPark Says with Krisha Chachra. Joining me in Everybody Studios is a local author, 7-time novelist, and my personal very good friend, Joy Callaway. How are you doing, Joy?
Hey, Krisha. It's so nice to be here. Yes, we are definitely buddies in real life. So
Yes.
I'm just so excited to be here and talking to you today.
That's right, in real life. And I was actually just thinking about this for the listeners to hear. We met when you were working on your third book, I think, about 4 or 5 years ago. It was called The Grand Design, about Dorothy Draper, which we will talk about in a minute. You know, obviously, big relationship, I would say, with the Greenbrier, where Dorothy
Yes.
Draper was the interior decorator. So we met then, and that was about 4 or 5 years ago. And now you have 4 more books. So Joy, that is like that is
It's
like
been
a book a
wild.
year.
Yes.
Yeah, that is a book a year. How do
is.
you churn out a book a year?
Well, first of all, we're contractually obligated to.
Okay. So
Secondly,
you have to.
secondly, you kind of get on a routine just like you do with any other job. You know, you start to find your footing and find your routine. And for me, it's about for years now, I've done a lot of my research for my books in the summer because I write historical fiction mostly,
Mhm.
and really diving in, getting that preliminary research done in the summer, and then in the fall, I really dig into writing, and I've done that for the last 5 years now,
It's
which
just
is wild.
it's just become a routine for you.
Yeah.
Most people go out, they take a jog, they brush their teeth, they get ready in the morning. You're like, let me just write a novel.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's so fun. But I mean, I love when we connected over that book because it shows, stories are they're connective. They bring us together. They help us understand each other and meet each other. And so it was amazing when I got to, get to know you through the Greenbrier and through our love of Dorothy Draper and design and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It was really neat.
Yeah, so as a little bit of a background story, I got married at the Greenbrier, which is a very beautiful historic resort in West Virginia. You have family in West Virginia, so that maybe is why you gravitated toward, that story of Dorothy Draper. But I got married at the Greenbrier. I'm originally from Southwest Virginia, and so when I moved here to Charlotte during the pandemic, someone said, you need to connect with this writer because obviously, I'm a writer too. I
Yep.
write for the SouthPark Magazine and all the magazines here in Charlotte. So they were like, you have to meet this author who's writing about Dorothy Draper in the Greenbrier. And when I met you, we just had so many connections about not only that place, but our love for that resort and for telling a good story.
Yeah, it
So
was funny. I actually saw that picture pop up of me standing in your Brazilians hallway,
the
which is
Brazilians hallway.
so Krisha has a lovely hallway, and it's featuring Brazilians, which is Dorothy Draper's probably most. Dorothy Draper's an interior designer,
Right.
if you guys aren't aware. She's wonderful and kind of iconic. But I have a picture of me, and I think I at that point had just had like a printout of my cover,
Yeah,
not the
that's right.
actual book.
It was on an 8 by 11 piece
Yeah.
of paper,
And I'm
actually.
standing there like,
Yeah.
yay!
In
Look at
front
my
of
printout.
in front of the wallpaper, which was homage, my like way of honoring Dorothy Draper when I couldn't get there during the pandemic. So I put her wallpaper on my hallway.
But and I remember us. You can just instantly know when you're gonna be friends with someone.
Right.
Like there's people I meet people all the time, and I'm like, they're cool. Like I really like them, but like, sometimes when you meet that like kindred spirit friend,
Yes.
it's just an instant connection. And I felt like that with you. That we had so much in common with creativity, with writing, that it just and with the love of like bright colors and our favorite places that it instantly brought us together. And I'm just so thankful to have you
Oh, well,
in my life and in my corner.
well, you definitely were a bright spot during the pandemic for me when I moved here to a place in Charlotte where I didn't know anyone. And you were definitely one of the bright spots and still a shining light in my life. So I'm so happy we can talk today and talk about your work, about some of the upcoming books that you have that will be released soon, and also your role in SouthPark Magazine's first book talk.
So excited.
Yes, you are going to be the moderator for New York Times bestselling author Kristy Woodson Harvey, who just came out with her book, Beach House Rules. We'll be featuring it at the book talk, which is taking place on May 5th at the Mint Museum in the Randolph campus. And so you will be the moderator for Kristy. And you also have a book coming out the next day.
I do. It's so wild. It's going to be a
Yes.
fun summer.
Yes,
I
for
know.
sure.
And Kristy and I are good friends in real life too. And so it's just going to be such a joy to talk to her about. She's been publishing for 10 years. It's a decade now. And I'm coming up on 9. So it's
Wow.
going to be a fun celebration of our new books coming out for sure.
Absolutely. And for more information about that, you can pick up April's issue of SouthPark Magazine and flip through so you can find more information about our book talk event, the very first one. And we hope to be highlighting more local authors. I mean, that's really important because, you were talking about our commonalities and how we meshed and created a strong relationship based on our writing. But it's so important to keep the written word alive. I mean, we're all
Mhm.
fighting to do that. I mean, even this podcast is a way of extending our writing to the audience that may be consuming it in a way that is more manageable listening to this podcast or seeing us on social media, and then hopefully taking enough interest to pick up the magazine and actually thumb through it and read the sophisticated stories that we hope to put out.
It's such a wonderful publication and magazine. And it's something I can't wait to read every month.
Thank you.
And, with your work too, I think about so much, like I mentioned earlier, the way that stories connect us and the way that stories bring us together. And through the magazine, we get to know Charlotte better. We get to understand where we live a little better. And I love seeing different people highlighted, different organizations highlighted. And when you write a travel piece exposed to different, worlds that maybe I haven't thought of before. So really, the magazine is just another connected point for all of us here in Charlotte, and we're so lucky to have it.
Yes, thank you. I believe the same thing. So it is a wonderful publication. So I'm glad that we can extend some of our talent and highlight some of our talent in the magazine. And speaking of that, you have a book coming out, the 6th book of yours coming out on May 6th.
I do.
And it is based in Charlotte.
It
For
is
the
based
first
in
time,
Charlotte.
because you're a historic fictional writer, and this one is based in Charlotte. So tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about the Star of Camp Green. Take it away, Joy.
Star of Camp Green. Yes, it's my first book set here in Charlotte. I grew up in Charlotte, so I'm a native Charlottean. And this story started because, gosh, I don't even know how many years ago this was. It must have been 8 years ago now, 7 years ago. I lose track of time. But I was actually on a panel with 2 other local authors, Sarah Crosland and Tommy Tomlinson. And I don't even know what we were talking about. But Sarah Crosland had just come out with a book called Secret Charlotte. And I picked it up because it seemed so fascinating. And I talked to her about her research process and how she came up with these unique sites that made it into the book. And one of those little, pieces in the book was about Camp Green, which I'd never heard of before. And Camp Green was a World War I Army training camp that at the time doubled the size of Charlotte. Charlotte was about 60,000 people back then.
Wow.
And when the soldiers came to train, they added another 60,000 to the population, which seems pretty wild. And the camp extended from Wilkinson Boulevard all the way to Gaston County. In my research, I get to look at pictures of old Charlotte and read old issues of the Charlotte Observer and things like that. And it was just fascinating to see the way Charlotte has transformed while still keeping its heart, But the story centers on a girl who's a Broadway star, and she wants to honor her fallen fiance who was British and who passed early in the war. And so she asked General Pershing if she can go tour the front lines and try to go, lift their spirits before they head to war. And General Pershing says immediately, no, you can, if you want, we'll try this out, go tour the American Army camps. And if that works out, then maybe we'll send you overseas. And so when you meet my main character, she's on stage at the Liberty Theater at Camp Green, which the Liberty Theaters were just places where performers could come and kind of entertain the troops, but also where like resident soldiers who were skilled with music or acting could perform for their fellow soldiers. So she's on stage there, starts to feel very ill, and quickly realizes she's coming down with Spanish flu, which was
that was common.
it was a problem
Right.
in 1918.
Right.
And she's taken to the hospital on the campus of Camp Green. And as she's recuperating, she overhears an Army secret inadvertently. And so she's ordered to remain at Camp Green for the rest of the war, which is not
That's
know,
not
not
fun, not
ideal.
ideal at all. And
I
they know that she knows the secret, and that's why they kept her there.
Right.
Okay.
Someone realizes that she is overheard
Uh-oh.
and they keep her there. And so one of my friends that read it said it was as if like someone like Taylor Swift were just kept somewhere under false pretenses. So it's kind of that
Ooh,
vibe.
wow.
But my
Yeah.
main character is based on a real person named she's not, fully based on her, but this inspiration came from Elsie Janis, who was
Okay.
actually the woman whose tours during World War I gave America the idea to start the USO
Oh,
in World War II.
wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah, pretty
That's
neat.
amazing. So this is based on a true character. And you think about that, how people, especially women during that time, didn't have a lot of agency. And she apparently was, a trailblazer. She wanted to go overseas. She wanted to do something for the troops. Unfortunately, kept against her will with back then, obviously, no way to communicate, no internet. Taylor
No.
Swift would be like tweeting about it and,
That's right.
help me, get me out. And people would be clamoring, all of the Swifties. But yet she was trapped. And so that's a really interesting plot twist. And I'm wondering when you're doing your research, is it the case that when you research that there were opportunities for women, or maybe the desire, I should say, maybe not the opportunity, but the desire for women to go overseas to help with the military efforts, but they were just not allowed?
There were some nurses,
Mm,
obviously, that were allowed at the front lines,
mm,
serving with the Red Cross and things like that. But with, we were seen as kind of a delicate, the delicate group. And that's so not true. We step up to the table. We
mhm,
have equal footing. And I think people like Elsie Janis, who inspired my character, Calla Connolly, there are pictures of her performing at the front lines, and she's performing on overturned crates
mm.
and blasted wagons, and really at about 2 miles from the front lines. So she financed her own tours, and really went in to places that no one else would want to go. But she did it because she truly believed that people's spirits mattered, that the posture in which they marched into something really hard, it mattered. It mattered for them to have a little bright spot in the midst of all their fear and anxiety.
Mhm.
And so that really inspired me with this character. And really wanted to portray what that would have been like to be a person like her.
Right.
Yeah.
And you generally do highlight very strong female lead characters in all of your books. And why do you think that that's important?
You know, we are products of the people that come before us. And thank goodness for trailblazers, right? Um, I'm so inspired by women in history who used their gifts despite the fact that it was really hard to do so
Mhm.
in certain parts of history. But if they hadn't,
Where would we
I,
be?
that would be horrible. What would we be doing now?
Right.
So it's an inspiration to me to then realize that I need to use my gifts in places that, even if it's hard, right? We're given skills for a reason. We're given passion for a purpose. And so I think that if we don't use those things for the good of everybody else, that we're shortchanging the world.
That's right.
And
It's a
so,
macroeconomic effect. It's a
yeah,
macro effect. When you don't use your passion and your best self, whatever you're made to do, all of us suffer in a way. We might not
yeah,
know it, but it is definitely something that is apparent, because all of us miss out if you're not doing what you're meant to do. Because everyone has a different gift. How did you find your gift in writing? Have you always been a writer?
So, us writers, we kind of have, every time I hear an author talk, I'm like, yep, that's my story. But I started writing as a young kid, and I tell this story a lot, and my parents, I'm sure, are always, laughing when I tell it. But I always laugh when I tell this story that basically, when we were young, we were allowed to watch 30 minutes of TV per week,
Mhm.
which seems nuts.
Right,
But
considering everyone's on their iPads now, and I'll tell you really quickly what my 30 minutes was.
what?
Dukes of Hazzard.
Ooh, I love
On Friday,
it.
we'd drop our backpacks down, run outside, wait until, like, it became, a little bit dusk, and
Yeah.
then we knew it was Dukes
Then
of
you're in
Hazzard
for Dukes of
time.
Hazzard.
That's right.
I
As soon as
love
the
it.
fireflies came out, we caught a few, and then we're like, Got to go to Hazard County.
Can't miss it. That's so funny. I love that.
So that was, my 30 minutes, Bo and Luke Duke.
You're going to get
all
some
the
Dukes of
way.
Hazzard gifts now from me.
I know, that's right. I hope so. Send me Bo. Send me
I
Bo.
will. But yeah, we watched TGIF.
Okay.
And on Nickelodeon, and my brother and I always ask for TV dinners too. Why? I have no idea. Like why? I go through the Frozen section now, and I'm like, why would I want that? I don't know. But it was a novelty.
Right.
So we were only allowed to do that, and so the rest of the time, we weren't allowed to say we were bored or we got chores. And I didn't like to fold laundry then, and I still don't like to fold laundry now. So I found ways to occupy myself, which was writing stories and coming up with plays and stuff like that. And my brother went outside and played basketball, and I used to get the neighborhood kids involved, and we'd have plays in my front yard, and I'd charge the neighbors 5 cents for a ticket, and people would come watch us. Or I'd write a magazine about whatever I was interested in historically. Like I got really into Titanic at one point and wrote a little magazine, and I was selling those door to door in my neighborhood. So writing for me, it's always been something important in my life and something that I gravitate toward. But when I went to high school and college, I started kind of to grow out of creative writing for some reason. I always kept reading a lot, but kind of had grown out a little bit of that, using that creative writing muscle. And I went into college for PR and marketing. So loved that. That involved writing as well.
And where'd you go to school?
I went to Marshall University in West Virginia for
Virginia.
undergrad, and then University of South Carolina for grad school. But after grad school, my husband and I, who I met at Marshall, we got married, and that summer I read an extraordinary amount of books. I mean, I always read a lot, but this was over the top. And I was looking at my bookshelves one day, and I was like, why have I never tried to write a book? That would be so much fun.
Wow.
And so I tried it, and it was horrible. Like really bad.
What horrible in
Have
what way?
I told you
It was
about
just,
this before?
I don't think I know. See, this is so great that we can do this now on air.
Yes.
Learn more about each other. So you tried, and it was horrible because.
So it was 2 books too long.
Okay.
And
you just kept writing.
it made a lot of I didn't really go into it knowing anything about publishing. I just went into it thinking I want to tell a story. But I still thought it was going to be like the great American novel.
Of course. Your first time around. Yeah.
So I made myself a little cover for it. I still have it. It's in a 3-ring binder. It's called The Branches.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
was it on an 8x11 piece of paper that you would have
Yes, it was. And my mom, I had my parents bring it, and they read it at the beach in a binder.
Oh, wow.
So they're all flipping through, it's sticking to their legs. They don't care. But I sent it to agents. I still thought it was that good.
Good for you.
But it was not. And
Okay.
so, I caught the bug, right?
Well, not
for
according
writing.
to them, but yeah.
Yeah.
You caught the bug.
It's
And you
never
weren't
come out the door.
dissuaded. That's the other thing,
Yeah.
too. You weren't dissuaded.
That's the biggest thing. Don't
Yeah.
you think?
Yeah.
With any endeavor you have, you're going to come across adversity. It's about pushing through. Because if you have a passion for something and a gift,
Right.
you're supposed to use it.
That's right.
So I think that was always my thought. I actually wrote 2 more practice novels after that.
Good for you.
And they were in different genres that weren't really me. It was me trying to write to the market or what somebody would think was popular.
So did they give you feedback when they rejected your first great American novel?
No.
They just said
most
no.
of the time. So most of the time with when you send stuff to agents, it's like, we want the next 3 chapters or the full manuscript, and you're like, woohoo, someone's going to read this and they're gonna love it. And when they get back to you, they just say, it's usually like a form rejection of some kind, like, thank you so much for sharing your wonderful work, but
Okay.
not for me, So it's
Thanks,
very
but no
vague.
thanks.
And the first time you get it, you're like, they said wonderful work. Wow.
Right.
When in
latch
reality.
on. You latch on to the positive. That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good outlook in life, at least.
It is.
Oh,
Then in reality, you realize, looking back, you're like, well, everyone got
everyone
that
got that
response.
letter.
So, but I think what helped me really in those times was having author friends, people that wanted the same thing,
Community.
publication,
Right.
things like that.
Right.
And we all were pressing toward that. I had a group of about 5 writers, and they were all writing in different genres. And we would share work with each other. And one Christmas, I was at my grandparents' house in West Virginia. My grandma's this keeper of family stories, this ancestry lover, and her name is Olivia. And in her house, she's named after her grandmother and her great aunt,
Wow.
both named Olivia. And so their portraits are on the wall at their house. And so during Christmas, I was sitting in their living room, and I remembered this story about that family that they were all artists in the Gilded Age Bronx. And there were 4 girls and a boy, and they all, went on to do amazing things. And I was like, this is my story.
That's the
This
story.
is my story. And I love ancestry and I love my family history too. And it felt very true, just the most authentic me. And so I started writing their story, and my critique partners, my author friends that I had, immediately told me, this is it, Joy. This is the one. And they were right. So
Wow.
that's the book that got me an agent and a book deal. It's called the Fifth Avenue Artist Society. And I tell authors, aspiring writers, this all the time. Just don't give up. If you love it so much, never let it go.
That's right. And write what
Eventually,
you
you'll
know.
find the right story.
Right.
Yeah.
And write what you know.
Write what you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You will find the right story. And I always believe art will find a way.
It
Because if
will.
you're an artist, if you're a true creator, you keep going because your art will always find a way. It'll find a way. Your art, actually, I was interviewing Dennis Reed for one of the articles, Dennis Reed Jr., who is the founder of Sainted Trap Choir here in
Oh, wow.
Charlotte. And he quoted something, I think it's from scripture too, and it says, your talent will make room for you.
Wow.
And because the talent is there, the art is there. And that's something that really resonated with me when I was doing an article for him. I think it was last July in SouthPark Magazine. But I really love the fact that you kept going and you found it. And then once you got an agent, you just kept churning it out,
Yeah.
And then 7 books later, we're here. So I love that story. And what would you say to women or, anyone who wants to write who is not, it seemed like you had a little bit of a luxury of being able to take the time to do it.
Right.
What if you're not in that situation? I mean, we have so many other responsibilities, families, taking care of the kids, spouses, work that we need to
Right.
do in order to, make ends meet. But we have this fire inside of us. What do you say to those writers?
Well, for the majority of the time early on at the beginning of my career, I was working 2 jobs. So I was a marketing director for a wealth management company, and I was writing books. And what I would do is, it was so fun for me. It was honestly just like, the equivalent of going out to dinner or something. It felt great to write.
Wow.
And so I'd come home and have dinner, talk to my husband for a little bit, and then I'd get to writing. And it felt like a vacation every
Mhm.
time I'd open that document. Now, I didn't write very much. It might be an hour a day or something like that. And I think my advice would always be just to get started, because after, after that phase, my first book came out when my daughter was 1. And then I had my son. My son and my daughter are 21 months apart. So I had really little kids at home. And I had
A lot of work.
resigned from my job as marketing director at that point, but I still had work to do. And
Mhm.
so I would only have time to write for about an hour and a half a day. And the only reason I was able to do that is because I got the kids' nap times to sync up in the afternoon.
Okay. That
So
was your saving grace.
yeah, it was a little wild. Or I'd write on my phone, if like I was holding one of them. And, but the big thing is if you have a passion for it, you'll find a way to do it. And it doesn't mean you have to spend 8 hours a day working on it.
Mm.
It can mean you carve out 30 minutes and get as much done as you can on that. Really, books, a lot of my friends write 1,000 words a day, which seems kind of crazy. And to put it into, I guess, more regular terms, it's about 4 pages a day. But if you write 1,000 words a day, most books are about 80,000 words. So, you'll have a book in a little under 3 months.
3 months. Right.
So if you think about it that way, it seems manageable. It seems doable.
That's true. That's
And
true.
everybody's different. I like to go into a story having an outline.
Mhm.
And again, I think that goes back to the fact that I didn't have a lot of free time, back when I started. So I didn't have time to sit at my computer and think, well, what comes next in this story?
Right. Right.
So I think if you're someone who's crunched for time, maybe try to do a little outline and I don't do anything fancy. I get a legal pad and I sit there and think, okay, where do I want it to start? And then what does my character want? And then how do I get in their way for the whole book until the end, where they either get what they want or they get something they didn't know they wanted. So that's kind of the advice I would give aspiring writers, is just to start.
Right.
There are so many people I talk to that have stories in them
Mm.
and say they want to write a book someday. And every single time I tell them, just start, just
Just
do it.
start.
Just write that first
I know you've said that
sentence.
to me many
Yeah, I
times
know.
too.
Girl,
Yes.
when are you joining me on book tour?
I'm just churning out articles. That's what I've been
I
doing for
know.
25 years, but I would love to. I would love to start.
Well,
And
and
there,
I think with you, like you have such a gift for every time I read one of your pieces, you have such a gift for character.
Mm,
And this is like, these are real characters. These are people you're interviewing, people you've met. The color that you bring to everybody and the dimension you give to people and settings, you're going to be, you would be a wonderful novelist or whatever you decide to do. You're just a great writer in
oh, well,
general.
thank you. Thank
So,
you. Like attracts like. Well,
yep.
definitely, Joy. So, here in Everybody Studios, we're talking to international best-selling author Joy Callaway, whose book is coming out on May 6th. So, I'm really excited to see The Star of Camp Green and in its glory when this is a pre-copy, right?
Yes.
So, I can't wait to get my own copy. But you'll be talking about this at our book event, our book talk with Kristy Woodson Harvey. So tell me a little bit about Kristy because
Yes.
you will be speaking with her as the moderator and you're introducing her. And this is something that we're really excited about hosting. It's our very first book talk event at 5:30 on May 5th at the Mint Museum on Randolph. And you know her very well. You guys are friends. You know, you seem to keep good company when it comes to writers.
Yes. So Christy and I was thinking about this the other day. We met, I believe, when her second book came out. So I have a picture of her. It's Christy, myself, and another author friend of mine, Erica Marks. And we're at Park Road Books hanging out. And I texted her the picture the other day and I was like, look, I think this is when we first met. And it was about, 9 years ago now. And she is just a wonderful person, wonderful writer, of course, but just the most kind, giving, talented friend. And I'm just so lucky to know her. As we talked about, it's so important in this creative world to have friends. In the
That's right.
creative world, it's a different job than really a lot of traditional jobs. And so you need people who get it.
Mhm.
And really having Christy in my life is a godsend. And I just am inspired by her and the stories she tells about strong women, too. So, this book that she's coming out with called Beach House Rules, it's really neat. It's actually
We have
about,
it here.
yeah,
We
we
put it
have
up
it.
before. I'll put it up again. Beach House Rules is what will be featured at our book event, our book talk event on May 5th. So have you read it?
I haven't yet, but I've
Okay.
heard all about it. So, this book actually, it's going to be a great book for summer. I mean, just look at the cover.
Right. I
You're going to need
mean,
to read that on the
I want to
beach,
be
right?
there. I don't know why. We're after this is where I'm going.
That's
To the
right.
cover of Christie's book.
But she writes just such dimensional characters too, and
Mm,
just relatable women.
mhm.
And her casts are always, you can find yourself in at least a couple characters that she writes, if not associate yourself with like one particularly. And I'm excited to see kind of which character
Which
I
character you jive with?
resonate most with in this
Right.
book. But this book is really fun. It's about a family who, well, a mother and daughter primarily. And what's happened is the husband has gotten in a bit of trouble,
Mm.
convicted of a white collar crime. And so they flee, they don't flee New York, but they kind of flee New York because they've been locked out of their apartment there because of
Oh.
his crime.
Oh
So they come
wow.
back, they come to, I believe it's Juniper Shores is the town that they come to. Yes, Juniper Shores, North Carolina. And they end up at a kind of like safe haven for single mothers. It's this bed and breakfast, and she and her daughter kind of camp out there, and they get to know a bunch of other, mothers and daughters, and um, get a new community and kind of start fresh. But at the same time, there's secrets swirling around, and there's this
Mm.
social media account called Juniper Shores Socialite, which kind of reminds me a little bit of Gossip Girl,
Gossip
right?
Girl.
So Juniper Shores is always kind of stirring the pot.
Right.
And so I think this book is just going to be just so much fun,
And so
but
relatable.
it's completely
So
relatable.
relatable. And the rules, they're actually beach house rules while she's there,
Yep,
right?
there are.
And so they
Yes.
tease those out, and I'm excited to read it for sure.
Well, and I think, she's talked a lot about, and this is something you and I totally understand too, the importance of your mom friends,
Mm,
and the importance of having a community, even outside of your family, having that community that understands you and that is going to build you up no matter what. And, that this book is a testament to friendship at
right.
its core.
Right.
So,
Very important. Very important. So important that, I had to write an article about that in the March
That's
issue
right.
for sure. But it is like, it is something interesting, that friendship changes over time. And as we age, it's harder to find those quality friends. But it's something that I think resonates with all of us. It's very relatable. And I'm really looking forward to reading how Kristy frames that in this book, which has sort of some twists and turns too, it seems. So
Yeah,
looking
it's
forward to
great.
it.
It's just like so it's a blast, and honestly, I look forward to this time of year every year because
Mm,
she is usually a book a year author as well.
right.
And so it's so wonderful because I'm like, yes, I know what I'm reading on spring break, or I know what
Yes,
I'm reading
in the
first thing
summer.
in the summer,
Right. So her summer lit is on
So
point for sure. When you are a great writer, like the two of you are, you have interests in other genres and other forms of media. So I know she's looking at TV and movies,
yeah,
and
she
it's
just announced an Amazon deal for A Happier Life that came out last year,
wow.
which is one of my favorite books of all time.
Okay.
And that paperback just came out this week, I think.
Oh,
So,
okay.
pick up both copies. You'll
Yeah.
have a great time on your beach vacation because
Fresh
they're
off the
both
press.
perfect books for that.
Yeah. So we'll be seeing that on Amazon Prime probably coming up.
Yes.
And then do you want to say anything about perhaps your foray in TV or other
I'll
kinds
just
of
say
media?
that we're working on some things
Mm,
and some things are in the works. Nothing set in stone, so I won't say too much about it, but
sure.
it's been really fun to get into that world.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
different.
when you're it's just like any other career when you're working in one medium for a long time,
Mhm.
sometimes you're like, I love story, but how can we stretch our muscles a little bit? And
Right.
so branching into different genres, telling the same story we love so much and that we've worked so hard in different formats is amazing. Audiobooks have become really great now,
Sure.
really popular. And you can understand why, because it's just another way for people to consume a story and to be connected to that story and to each other. So,
Right. So you're not
yeah,
threatened by that. I mean, you're not
no.
threatened by the takeover of AI telling a story or audiobooks or,
Well,
reducing
AI is so different from, audiobooks are just your story
right.
narrated.
Narrated. Hmm.
AI is something that, am I threatened by it? No, because I don't think it's ever going to have the heart of an
Mm.
actual person.
Mhm.
It may be able to spit words out. Will it be
Your
able
words
to?
back to you
Yeah. Well, we
sometimes.
did just find out, did you see this that it was just discovered that that Meta had used basically everybody's work to train AI.
Oh God.
So
I'm
all
yeah,
of
I'm
my
not
books are on
surprised.
there,
That's right.
and I'm sure all of Christie's.
Right.
So, and a lot of our other friends too. And so it's disheartening because that part is really upsetting because it's your work that you spent so much time on, so much heart
Mhm.
in, um, than to be training a computer.
That's right.
Now, I still don't think it's going to be able to do what we do,
Mhm.
but um, yeah, that's it's more disappointing, disheartening than it is threatening to me at this point. But I
Right.
do think that hopefully there'll be some legislation in place sometime
Yeah,
that will
sometime
stop that.
soon. It's true. I mean, just like we have to protect any kind of creative work, whether you're an actor or a painter. I mean, a writer too. I mean, we're putting out information there, and it is the way that we spend our time, the way that we elevate the community, the way that we inform the world.
Yeah.
And you have to protect the written word just as much as you protect any kind of intellectual property. And the written word is, your ideas are your property.
Totally is.
And so, yeah, it is concerning. It's kind of funny. It happened to me once. I was searching something about as you know, I'm a travel writer, and
Yeah.
I was searching something about a destination that I had written about before, but I wanted to do, an updated version.
Yeah.
And I saw an AI, they were quoting me back to me.
Oh, you're like, thanks a lot for stealing my work
Right,
and
right.
acting like I'm
I
I'm quoted in this
That's
article.
right. I'm like, wow, that's really smart, right? Oh, wait.
Oh my
But
gosh.
it was crazy. But and I wouldn't mind so much if they actually had a reference. Like that's the thing, at least reference us.
Right.
At
Yeah.
least reference it because
That's the whole problem is it's like it's stolen property,
right,
which is the big issue.
right.
But I mean, I will say this, the advent of audiobooks becoming popular
Yeah.
or like our work translated into plays or film or anything like that, that's really cool. And that's
Hmm.
something that I think is just an enhancement of the story.
Right.
With audio, I don't know how much you know about audiobook production, but basically with us in traditional publishing, we get a couple probably about this time in our publishing process right before our books come out, we tend to get some sample audio bits from our publisher, and there'll be different audio narrators. And
Hmm.
so they'll say, which one do you like best for the audiobook? And weirdly enough, I never have a character voice in my head when I'm writing,
Hmm.
but when I listen to those samples, I'm immediately like, nope, 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 yes. Like,
Interesting.
which is really
Yeah.
fascinating. And I have a book coming out the month after The Star of Camp
Hmm.
Green. It's kind of like a it's Southern contemporary romance, like Schitt's Creek meets Heart of Dixie, like goofy, funny, but also very heartwarming and romantic.
This is the one that you were laughing in your own head while you were
I was
writing. You were like
crying.
crying.
I was laughing so hard when I was editing this book, and I was like, okay, you know, maybe people don't have my same sense of humor. So,
Uh,
if you pick it up, maybe you won't be laughing that hard. But I was entertaining myself, and I was like, I don't care if no one else thinks it's funny. This was so worth it to me because I'm having a
I
blast.
can see you like falling off your chair as you're writing a sentence.
Yeah, I was
Just
trying to read
thinking
it to
like,
my husband, and he's coming in. He's like, "Are you okay?" Because I'm like, like crying in my chair.
what is it called? What is it
It's
called?
called "Sing Me Home to Carolina."
Okay, wow.
Yeah, it's about a girl, an event planner, who goes home to her small town, which is actually my fictional small town is between Charlotte and Greenville.
Okay.
Because one of the things that the town is facing is that the NFL wants to build a Panther stadium between Charlotte and
Mm.
Greenville to make it a Carolinas
Oh my
stadium. So the
goodness. This is
town's
familiar.
yeah, the town's facing whether the stadium will be put there or in like a neighboring town. So that undercurrent's happening. But the event planner goes back home because her parents' peanut farm, which is a historic farm,
Mm.
is infertile. And so she's trying to help them come up with their second act. And they have this old historic barn on their property from the founder, who was Nat King Cole's guitar player.
Oh
And
wow.
so she goes back home and inadvertently starts like a Bluebird Cafe-esque
Nice.
business in their barn.
In the barn.
And she's obviously navigating the competing affections of her first love, which is like a former MLB standout who's just returned back home, and then this mysterious owner of the hardware store in town.
Joy, I was
So,
getting Hallmark movie vibes right
right?
there.
Yeah.
Yes, they'll be calling you.
Call
That's
me.
really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So Star of Camp Green comes out in May, and then June is Sing Me Home to Carolina.
Yes.
And both of them take place in Carolina, in
They do.
Charlotte.
Yeah.
Yeah, in this
It's really fun,
area.
and music. They're
Yeah,
both
and
music
music.
focused, which I was like,
Mm.
what was I trying to tell myself in those? I don't know. I love music, but
Yeah, your imagination, just fascinating. And this is what I think, going back to what you were talking about, I mean, this is what the written word does.
mhm.
It, instead of seeing the visual really quickly and having that, that visual mapped out for you when you look at something on Instagram or Snapchat, you have to use your brain to form the
Right.
visual.
Yeah.
And that, I think, makes us sharp. It keeps us sharp and gives us skill sets that are slowly being phased out in life that I think are necessary for survival. But we can get on our soapbox
Yep.
about the written word. We're just trying to keep it alive here. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to your next two books. You had a
Thank
lot
you.
of great advice for budding authors, for authors that are trying. And someone said something to me one time, and it stuck with me. It said, "Just get your body there, like
Mhm.
sitting in the chair or wherever you're writing, out in nature. Get your body there, and your mind will follow."
Yes, I love that. Yes, I
Mm.
write outside most of the time, which is
Do
great.
you really?
Yeah, I try to talk myself into thinking I'm on like a vacation or something,
Mhm.
and I try to get drinks like that I like, and just sit outside and kind of just enjoy the birds and hearing the wind, like feeling the wind and stuff like that. It's inspiring to me. I don't do well just sitting inside in an office.
Mhm.
Um,
That's your happy place for writing.
yeah, and it's funny because sometimes it's like not great weather to be outside, but there I am. So it can be like freezing, and I my husband will walk out and he's like, "What are you doing out here?" It's like frigid,
It's
and
frigid.
I'm in like an old Carhartt jacket, with the hood on, typing away.
Well,
So
I mean, it just it wakes you up. It keeps your
yeah,
mind sharp and, yeah, I mean, fresh, and your ideas are flowing. And obviously it's working for you, Joy. 7 books after this summer. We're so proud of you. And thank
thanks,
you so
friend.
much for coming on the podcast today to talk about your work. Again, South Park Magazine's book talk takes place on May 5th. At the Mint Museum in Randolph from 5:30 to 7:30, highlighting Kristy Woodson Harvey and, of course, our good friend Joy Callaway. We also have a notable book list in this month's issue of South Park Magazine in the April 2025 issue. So please pick up a copy or go to southparkmagazine.com. This is Krisha Chachra with South Park Says, and thank you again for listening. Thanks, Joy.
Thank you so much for having me.